for Digital Translation, Rytis MARTIKONIS. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Director General for Digital Translation, Rytis MARTIKONIS.
Does it work?
No, it takes a bit.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Brussels. Welcome to this hall. We are starting a bit differently this time. We definitely need more artificial intelligence in organizing our entries into the room. Also organizing the traffic jams and seeing that our keynote speaker arrives on time. But it's a great morning, it's a great occasion for all of us to come together. You have seen, while waiting, the first introduction. The first introduction was produced by my colleagues in DG Translation, how they think artificial intelligence and human intelligence interact. I mean, the numbers and numbers falling down and something happening. We see also another feature of this day, and there is Matthew Buck at the entry, at the end of the room, who is drawer-list. Not journalist, not cartoonist, but drawer-list. And that's his welcoming picture with his understanding of how the topic of ours, translation in the era of data and data working for translation looks like. So Matthew will be with us the whole day and a half, drawing and putting things the way he sees throughout the day. And Matthew, thank you very much for being with us. In a minute, I will call on stage the moderator, a very distinguished moderator, Anna Gurenov, who comes from far away in many senses. I mean, who comes from Argentina, who comes from Spain, who comes from Dublin now, and who does have quite a knowledge of both artificial and human intelligence. And Anna, thank you very much for being with us today as well. But just before passing the floor, I want to say that in European institutions, in the translation service of the Commission, we value this gathering of stakeholders very much, and we think that we chip in among the other good events. And I have an impressive list of things happening in the translation world, in these days. Yeah? So the machine translation workshop just finished last week in Brussels. We have the FIT annual conference in The Hague. We have a meta-net meeting in Vienna coming also of this nature, and so on. But here we are trying to put together not one group of specialists, not one association, not only this, but all the stakeholders. I mean, coming from the academia, coming from associations, from businesses, from research, and having the forum of the translation world, of translation business, where everybody is having a stake that you represent here. I'm very happy, as always, to see students or young professionals in the room, because among other things, this is also a particular feature from our service. We say we want to have also the conversation among the generations. And this is a very dear feature to me, always having in this room, the most experienced, the most accomplished colleagues, but also those who are starting with their projects, with their ideas, hopes, ambitions that will be defining the future. Colleagues, we will be hearing, I think, excellent panels. We have good selections. I will be coming with colleagues of the Commission to close this day. But now I would like to invite Anna to join me on this stage and start the show going. Anna, you have the floor. Let's applaud our moderator. Okay?
Hello? Now, it takes a little bit. Thank you for your nice presentation, and thank you everyone for being here. It's truly an honor for me to chair this conference. We have a very impressive lineup of speakers, so I'm sure you'll learn a lot, and also we'd like you to contribute to the conference in different ways that I will explain now. So the first thing maybe that the people that came here last year, is that we have an application called Slido to ask questions during the conference. And for the people that are streaming from home, also you can ask questions through Slido. To access a Slido, you can do it through a web, slido.com, that you are seeing somewhere here. Or you can download the application on your mobile phones. And to access the conference, you just need to type #2018TEF, and then you access to the different rooms of the conference, and you can ask questions. So please do ask questions. Although they are not going to be immediately shown on the screen, not to distract so much the panels. At times, we will show them, and the panelists will be able to respond or react to your questions or comments. So that's one thing. We will also have the traditional raise your hand and ask the question at the end of the panels. So there will be 15 minutes, 10 minutes to ask questions at the end. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that there were some last-minute changes in the program after it went to print. So if you want the latest, you can download the app Conference for Me, and you will get the latest program as well. The other thing I will encourage you to do is to visit the networking village, not only on this floor that you will see that you have the empty exhibitions, but also downstairs you will see a lot of posters. So do, in the breaks, have a look. And also, I know you all want to network and to meet people, but it's going to be a busy conference, so please be on time after the breaks so we can keep time. And I think that's all from the housekeeping. Am I forgetting anything? Do we have the... Do you want to... No, I was wondering if the keynote speaker is here yet. Okay. Oh, yes, this is interesting. So the machine translation demos that we have today, DeepL and Trados, from 8:30 to 9:10, Deja Vu at 10:45, Cantan and MT at EC and DeepL at 1:15, Trados Studio 2017 plus MemSource at 3:30, and XTRF and MemSource at 6 to 6:30. So that's for today, the exhibitions on machine translation that I encourage you. I like our audience when they know. I feel reassured, thank you. And tomorrow we have at 8:30 Cantan plus Google Translate, or using Google Translate, and at 1:30 Lilt and MemoQ, and at 2 Trados and DeepL. This is good. These are what I teach my students about machine translation and all these programs, so I hope you enjoy it. And maybe we can try a Slido, if there are any questions or comments already. Can you show it maybe on the screen, on the big screen? So as you can see, this is what we are going to see when you have comments from the auditorium, from home, on, or from your office, or from the beach, or wherever you are watching us. So while we wait for the keynote that is in the building, and she's coming, if you don't have a question, look to your right and think, what would the person on the right-hand side ask? Imagine and ask for them. There is a lot to say about what our eyes can see on the personalities. I was reading a paper about that. So everyone is arriving because there was a long queue. Oh, there is somebody saying something in the auditorium, maybe. Since I am here, I'm going to thank the interpreters that are at the back and that will be interpreting for us. Thank you very much for your work. And if we are going too fast, tell us. There was an article about, was it Baidu that had said that they had cracked the interpreting, they had reached human parity in interpreting. Of course, this is not true, we don't think. But this is the type of hype in the media that maybe we will try to clarify in this conference. What is reality versus hopes or nice to have features in the future. So thank you to the interpreters. And okay, so great to see so many. Where are the empty demos? They are here on this floor, next to the entrance? Thank you for that question. And the other thing is great to see so many stakeholders and looking forward to sharing solutions. Yeah. From the panelists that I have talked to, I must say there are a lot of interesting comments and a lot of knowledge in the room, from you as well. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh. So I do. This is my moment of fame. So I do research in Dublin. I am a Marie Curie Fellow Researcher in Dublin City University and a DAP Center. And what I do, if I start talking about my research, she won't be able to say her keynote speech, but I will say it very quickly. I do research on the impact of technology on humans, either translators or users. And I use obviously all kinds of methodology, but what people really like is that I use an eye tracker, which is a machine that looks at your eyes to see what you are looking at. So without further ado, welcome. Traffic in Brussels, as I am learning, is a serious matter. So, do you want to introduce our keynote speaker? Nozha BOUJEMAA is the research director at Inria, the French National Institute for Computer Science and Applied Mathematics, and is the elected member of the board of directors of the Big Data Value Associations, and is a member of the Commission's high-level group on artificial intelligence. Thank you very much for being with us. Here.
Okay, good. So thank you for this invitation, and I'm very delighted to share with you some ideas about trusted AI, trusted artificial intelligence, and then you will see that we have a few concerns about how to implement trusted AI in several application domains. Oh, great, thank you. Including language technology too. But at the very beginning, I start with, in fact, the perception of what is AI, big data, and what are the pillars of data science, and then what are the challenges ahead, in fact, in regard with trust in AI. Okay, so, oh, good, great. Okay, so, may I have a... Okay, good, that's better. Yes, this is better. Good, so, yeah, first of all, a few years ago, we are saying that data are everywhere. And in fact, what we have missed to say is that algorithms making value and sense from these data are everywhere too. Because data without algorithm, they have no value. Algorithms are making value and are making sense of data. So this is very important. Really, because it is important to see that data and algorithm are two sides of the same coin. We cannot talk about data alone or AI algorithm alone, since AI needs a lot of data, and data without algorithm are nothing, in fact. Anyway, so algorithmic-based decisions today are really pervasive in different application domains, whatever the material, whatever the typology of data, whether it is language or video or images, whatever kind of data, streams, signals, etc. And today it is really pervasive in different application domain, meaning from personal data, but also in the professional context. And we have several application area, from autonomous car, of course, they're not already working, but connected cars, conversational agent, which is a very important applications today, which are very impactful today, and healthcare and well-being, but also public services, etc. So it is really pervasive today. And big data technologies are agnostic. In fact, AI is the way to use and apply big data technologies for a given application area. And in fact, I'll come back later to this idea of agnostic to application and enablers. Big data technologies are enablers for AI capabilities. So as far as these algorithmic systems, in fact, I will talk about algorithmic systems, meaning data and algorithm, meaning both, okay? So, of course, you know that it has a lot of impact on our economy and social organization, and in, this way, transparency and trust are very key today. Not only key from the value perspective, but key for economic competitiveness, which is really important. Today, trust and transparency in algorithmic systems, and hence in AI services, are really very important from the economic point of view. And in fact, the shift happened when data analytics, in fact, which is not recent. Of course, data analytics exist from several decades from now. Since several decades, but the shift is from predictive to prescriptive analytics. This is, in fact, the shift that makes several people ask themselves, and really the scientific community, but also public services, private companies, but also policy and regulators. Okay, what's the impact of AI in society as far as now it is moving from predictive to prescriptive, which is an issue, in fact. So, trying to provide rather general definition of what is transparency, because of course you have heard about transparency, of algorithmic transparency a lot. There is plenty of definitions, plenty of way to understand how to implement transparency, but already I would like to provide this definition, which stands for reducing asymmetry of information between service provider and service consumer. This is really the most generic definition of transparency. And when we talk about consumers, I do not only mean citizens. Consumers could be citizens, could be professionals, and could be governments. So transparency is important at every level, in fact, and not only toward consumers, citizens, citizens, consumers. Since the B2B case, when the consumer is a professional, industry, that means company-to-company relations, it's very important issue with regards to competition. We could face unfair competition there if there is not sufficient transparency. And if the government is the client of these digital services, we are facing sovereignty issues. So transparency is not only, of course, most of the time we talk about civil rights, etc., but it's not only about civil rights, transparency and trust in AI. It is really important through all these typology, citizens, professionals, but also governments. Of course, when some governments have a private company dealing with their internal security data, if there is no transparency in these services, it's a great issue of sovereignty. Okay, so transparency is very important. So this was related to the fact that is it maybe this way? No, okay, no laser pointer, no problem. Yeah, so in fact, we are in this transition between prescriptive and prescriptive. And what do I mean by that is that in the prescriptive situation, algorithm may take the decision instead of the humans, which is, okay, I will show you a few examples about this. Good, but first of all, I would like to highlight the 5 pillars of data science, because most of the time we are talking about machine learning and that's it. About AI, it's only about machine learning. I mean, no, we need to consider and to see that there is a spectrum of know-how and expertise in data science needed to really be able to implement AI technology in the right way. So the 5 pillars are here inspired from the Big Data Value Association Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, where we have, I mean, in fact, plenty of industry dealing with data services and innovation, but also academia. And in fact, we put forward data management is very important. I will not go into the details because I have a few other points that I would like to share with you. Data processing architecture, which is very, very important most of the time. Okay, maybe it's not very important. No, it's very important. Scalability and decentralization are really key between cloud and fog architecture, but also low energy consumption is a great issue. In fact, AI limits could be energy, in fact. It is really important. And today, most of the big companies in AI services are really producing and dealing with this issue, meaning low energy consumption architecture. I mean, to really deploy efficient AI services, it is a great issue, low energy consumption architecture. Then data analytics and machine learning, and most of the time we only consider, okay, AI and big data are in machine learning and that's it. No, okay? So within data analytics and machine learning, of course, you have there semantic analysis, of course, including natural language understanding and processing. Not only natural language, but in fact all the type of content, but including natural language. And then we have also predictive and prescriptive analytics. Of course, when we have to deal with AI, AI project and service, data protection, I do not mean personal data protection at large. That means sensitive data protection, whatever personal or not. It is really important to consider that there is not only privacy issue here, because we can have sensitive data from the economical point of view, which are not personal. So we need to deal with sensitive data at large. So privacy enhancing model and techniques still challenges there with regards to robustness against reversibility, because most of the time, okay, we have to anonymize, yes, okay, but we have issues with regards to the robustness here. So in fact, still, these pillars still have challenges. We do not have solution to all of these issues on the roof. And to finish with the 5 pillars, data visualization. It is really important too, because we can have a most performant algorithm to understand, to analyze, etc. But if we could not, in fact, understand what's going on and make interpretation of the outcome of the analytics, in fact, it's not that useful. So data visualization is also a key issue in the landscape of data science and AI service. It's really important too. Of course, today we have some approaches which combine data visualization with data analytics, which are that we call progressive user-centric analytics. That means, in fact, in the perspective of the explainability, that means we can visualize. Okay, you understand what I mean? The evolution of the algorithm, the evolution of the parameter, the evolution of boundary of decisions, etc., using this progressive user-centric analytics. And the user can, in fact, interact with the algorithm in progressive way. So in fact, we are not, when I list here the 5 pillars, that does not mean that they are used in sequential manner, okay? Good. Few examples related to algorithmic system, that means data and algorithm in everyday life, okay? Ranking mechanism, recommendation engines. In fact, today, if I take the example of cultural content consumption, recommender system becomes prescribers of content consumption. Since, okay, you see this video, maybe this one is of interest for you. And it happens that, in fact, consumers are most of the time following recommender system, and that's it. So there is a real question about the neutrality, the transparency, and why this content is recommended, why the other is not. So we need transparency there. But also with regards to, of course, search engines. Again, for the personal data, in fact, my point here is that regulation is not the solution, because we have a lot of regulations, in fact, already. I mean, the consent, the respect of consent is an old right. But the issue is, for instance, here I would like to give an example about a mobile application that you install on your mobile phone, whatever it is. And there was an experiment that have been conducted to, in fact, this kind of application can ask you whether you would like to share your GPS position. Okay, you have to check this box. You would not like to share your GPS position, then you check this box. And we believe that when we check we do not share, I mean, the application takes our answer into account. Okay, so the experiment have shown and measure that whatever your answer is, your GPS position is taken into account. So what kind of, it's not the law that can protect us, in fact. We can only trust the service provider that he is protecting our personal data. I mean, of course, trust is okay, but proof of trust is better. Proof of trust is provided by algorithm. So here I would like to point out that AI is part of the solution, in fact. Algorithm that we can put forward to monitor the behavior of other piece of algorithm are very important. These are what I call transparency algorithmic tools. Because transparency, I mean, it's not sufficient to say, okay, you need to be transparent to service provider. It's not sufficient. We need to empower not only people and consumer, but I mean, in fact, citizens, professionals, and governments, we need to provide and put forward algorithmic tools for transparency, to provide information that we do not have, which is hidden, in fact. So, we have plenty of other examples. Credit scoring. Credit scoring, in fact, you need training data to establish how to decide with regards to this kind of credit scoring. how fair is it? What kind of, because learning data, there is an a priori there, since you need to provide learning data, meaning, and saying to the algorithm, okay, these are the positive example, these are the negative examples. How to define negative and positive? Of course, predictive justice, I would not go in there, but I would like just to point out that there is new discrimination that arises, in fact, with AI, and the same time of AI development and deployment, which is very positive for humankind. AI services are really of great help for humankind. That is definitely, something that there is no question on the opportunities provided by AI services, because humans cannot face the great amount of data. So we need algorithm anyway and AI. But in the same time, we need to not be naive in terms of AI technology deployment. We need to be very responsible in terms of AI deployment and how to deploy it. So for instance, for the credit scoring, there are people who know how the algorithm is done, so they in fact provide digital traces so that they have the highest score. But other people who do not know how the algorithm is done, even though they have the same financial situation, they will have different credit scoring. So there is a new discrimination between people who know how algorithms are working and people who do not know. So we need to be very careful here in this regard. Okay. So decision explanation and traceability is very important, and we are also thinking today, and I will say a very quick word later with regards to European Commission putting and setting up the high-level expert group in AI to provide guidance and guidelines in terms of trusted AI, in terms of ethical AI, and we need definitely this kind of guidance, and maybe we may need additional policy and regulation in this regard. So I would like to provide a few examples to really point out few limitations, in fact limitation in terms of we need to be aware of. Okay. When I talk about responsible AI and robust AI and safe AI, what is safe AI? Safe AI that include robustness and explanation. So in this, this example with regards to the panda. So deep learning, of course, is recognized as very powerful. Of course, there have been benchmarks showing that deep learning outperform the human capacity to identify objects. So this is proven. It's very powerful. Okay, but when here, for instance, we add very few amount of white noise. It's not even the human eye is able to go through the white noise. We still, as humans, recognize that it's a panda, but the deep learning algorithm is completely out of, it provides a wrong answer. So it's powerful, but it is very vulnerable to noise. So we need to be aware of that. And I show, in fact, here examples in computer vision because the interpretability of what's going on is easily understandable. But it is the case in all applications, in fact, whatever they are. In fact, this raises the fact that we need to work on the robustness of AI and robustness of deep learning. In fact, of course, there are deep techs and plenty of development, but the deployment of responsible AI means that we need to provide responsible and robust AI and deep learning algorithm. I mean, also I would like to point that AI is not limited to deep learning, of course, but more generally, we need robust AI algorithm. In the other example, in fact, it shows that here when we recognize the wolf, when we would like to show the in fact, what are the regions of the image that make the score of recognition high, saying that it's a wolf? In fact, it's not the wolf itself. It's the background. It's the context. So it let us really think about, well, here it's very clear that we do not build the model of the wolf, but we build the model of the context. And that's why I provide examples in computer vision, because it's easily interpretable in terms of results, but the same behavior of algorithms are everywhere, including in language technologies. So it's very, really important to see and to catch this issue in terms of robustness and explanation. When I hear, that means the explanation is wrong, okay? Even though the score of recognition is high. So we need to really be careful and to understand and see. Okay, good. So it's a mistake to consider that it's objective because it is data-driven. We need to be careful. We need to build new generation of algorithms which are transparent and responsible by design. That means when building the mathematical model, we need to take into account values that we need to respect, that we need to consider. And this is possible. In fact, there are models of supervised machine learning that build models with equity by design. That means discriminatory variables. They are not put off the feature space, but they are, in fact, the model that we have built reduce the impact of these discriminatory variables on the decision boundaries. So we need to build this new generation of AI models and mathematical models for AI, for learning, transparent by design and responsible by design. We need to master the accuracy and the robustness because, in fact, sometimes we discuss a lot about ethical AI, but sometimes there is no intent for discrimination. Sometimes the discrimination is not intentional. It's only because, there is a variation of results because the algorithm is not reproducible, and that's it, because the algorithm is not robust enough. So we need also to tackle these situations, and that's why responsible AI, a highlight with regards to algorithmic system bias, and it's also applicable for language technologies. It's really important for different applications. In fact, we have, as algorithmic system, our data and algorithm. So we have bias sources for data with regards to, for instance, poorly selected data or lack of representativeness of data, lack of diversity of data, of learning data, I mean here. So for language technology, it's very important to pay attention to learning data, how to select this data, how representative are these data for the situation to solve. But also, the sensitiveness to the to noise. We need to be careful about what kind of data we provide to the algorithm. We can have the most powerful algorithm, but data is really key. For the algorithmic system, in terms of learning algorithm, most of the time we make confusion between correlation and causation, so we need to develop causality models for learning. As you know, for predictive approaches, they have, by design, they are producing and perpetuating, in fact, the past. They are learning from past data and making projection and generalization for, the new data for a decision. Okay, then, algorithms are encapsulated opinions. So it's not because it's data-driven, it's objective. They are, anyway, encapsulated opinions of persons that are making the conception, the development, through decision parameter and learning data. We put opinions in learning data, okay? Remember the scoring, the credit scoring, for instance. Also, mastering accuracy and robustness is key, because source of unintentional discrimination, interdisciplinary co-consumption, that means solutions that reach the market are not only coming from innovation, from math and computer science. We need business model, we need sociology, we need law to have a very, in fact, interdisciplinary conception of solutions. Okay. Ethical do not mean responsible. Remember the results in some few elections where personal data were used, and in fact the company that was involved in the elections, in fact they are applying digital marketing in political domain, which is not, I mean, till now they violate no law, okay? So in terms of responsibility, they violate no law, but it's not ethical to influence opinion the day of voting, because the impact, I mean, to re-vote, people need to wait for 4 or 5 years. So there is a difference between ethical and responsible here, and that's why international collaboration is very key here. There is the AI high-level expert group for the European Commission. OECD is building also AI expert group to really master these issues, UNESCO too. So, to wrap up, trusted AI, responsible, what does it mean responsible? That means compliance with policy regulation and with social values, and that means ethics, democracy, human dignity, self-determination. In fact, today we have more and more AI services providing nudging, which is not that ethical, okay? Even though it provides business models which are very interesting, of course, but in terms of human rights, values, principles that Europe is putting forward, it's not that positive. So really we need to respect the self-determination of people. Robust and safe, that means safe and robust against bias, against corruption of data, against noise, and against reproducibility of algorithm. So, in fact, here there are plenty of issues that can take a lot of time to be developed and to put forward. We have really to face new challenges and in fact, research and innovation community, we have a responsibility there, definitely. We will not, I mean, regulation will not solve all what I'm talking about. I mean, providing new algorithm, new way of developing AI and the responsible way of deployment of AI is really important. So AI, this is what I was saying, is part of the solution, not only the law. Algorithmic tools to monitor the behavior of AI technologies is very important. Through traceability, explainability, and intelligibility. I will not go through GDPR and Cloud Act, okay? But of course, happy to answer, but there is an issue here. Just bear in mind that learning algorithms are available in open source, but not data. So in language technology, of course, to finish very quickly, diversity and representativeness of learning data, context, minorities, and multi-layered cultural nuances is very important. So data for learning is key. We need to really put a lot of attention there, but also reproducibility and robustness. Traceability is key. With regards to application issue, chatbots and nudging is, a risk. We need to be careful there. Chatbots and emotions with related business models is also an issue. So need for ethical guideline here. And that's why there is work ongoing within this AI high-level expert group, going from establishing core values and principles, but at the same time, how to implement trusted and responsible AI, how to make it, how to build this trust and responsible AI. And then the objective is to come up with a comprehensive checklist and guidelines based on use cases to challenge these guidelines. So this is ongoing work. First outcome is expected on end of this year with regards to how to implement trusted AI. And from the OECD, this is my last slide. From the OECD, just to be aware that it's an issue. I was saying that we need international cooperation. It is the case. So Europe is making effort in this regard, but also OECD countries are also now working on this issue and coordinating with the European Commission on this point. Good. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you didn't. So thank you very much for a very